Podcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay, so good day everyone. You're welcome to FXTM webinar, and it's going to be a good time. Now, I quickly before we start, I want us to check the settings of our audio and visual. So you find a place where you can type on your dashboard, on the app dashboard. You'll see where you can type something there. So if you can hear me, just type yes. Look for an icon for chat there. If you can hear me, just type yes, and then if you can't hear me, you can type no. All right, so let's do that quickly while we set up, and make sure you can see my screen as well. Make sure you're seeing my screen, and you should also be able to hear me clearly. That's very important. Just type yes if you can hear me, and if you can't hear me, type no. Let's do that quickly. Okay, so we have yes, 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 a whole lot of yes. Video, audio, okay, is all good. All right. So I think we're good to go. So we can kick up the the webinar. Now we have if you have questions while we're going on, you can just type your questions in the column where you just give me your response. Now you can just put your questions there. We are going to go in this way. I'm going to go through what I have for you, and then I'll give you some examples of the strategy I play. And if you have questions, just type your questions quickly. I'll take some time to go through the questions and then provide you answers as expected. So we have a whole lot of us in-house, and so we can start now. Quickly before we start, I might be new to a whole lot of you. My name is Conrad Okongu again, and I'm the head of education for FXTM. I've been trading for like 10 years, and some of the strategies that we used back then, we actually didn't know how to backtest them or to find out if they were for long-term based strategy or short-term based strategy. Now I discovered that we have different kind of strategies. We have strategies that are good for you to ride along with a trend. They are good for pairs and commodities and instruments that are trendy. I'll give you some examples of those commodities as we go on. And there are strategies that are not so attuned for trend following. I mean, they are not so good for trend following. There are strategies for pullback, there are strategies for breakout, and then also. But this strategy is a simple strategy that helps you to ride along as the market goes in a particular direction, whether the market is going in an uptrend or is going in a downtrend. You will see that there are sometimes along the journey of the trend, there are sometimes where you find a situation where the market goes in a very long unrepentant trend, direction, in the particular direction. Now this, if you had applied this strategy, you would have made a whole lot of money. So this is the whole idea of using the trend-based trading strategy. So let's really go into it. So the first thing is that the basic rules of trading applies to this strategy. So what are the basic rules? Understanding how to place trade, understanding little about the MT4, how to use a bilateral 4. If you are completely new to trading, you don't know how to use your MT4, I will try to go through some of that basics in this webinar. But I would advise that you download your MT4 shortly after the webinar, download your MT4, and then try to practice what was taught. And if possible, you can watch some of our webinars on how to use MetaTrader 4. Okay, so this is for those who are new, but for those who have been trading before, you can add this strategy to some of your strategies. Like probably you've had a strategy that helps you with short-term movement of price, maybe like breakout strategies or not. You can implement this. It's very simple strategy and simple to implement as well. Analysis is done with the aid of one or two elementary indicators. So we don't want to jam pack many indicators in this simple strategy. Now, I've created this strategy for mostly for those who are just who are new. So if you are new in trading and you're listening to me, this strategy is best for you to start with. Even professional traders also make use of this, right? So you don't have to use many indicators. We're just going to use about two indicators in whole in this strategy. Okay, so let's go on. No discretional entry and exit rules apply, and they are easy to follow. So what this means is that there are rules and you have to abide by those rules because they have been tested. I did a whole lot of back testing on this strategy. At the end of the webinar, I'm going to show you some back tested results on a currency pair of the strategy. So some of the rules, some of the parameters I've indicated, they've been back tested. So you do not have to bother about trying to tweak them, except you can do back testing and then you just add your parameter to it and then back test that. Okay, so I'll take questions as we go along. I'm seeing questions already, and then I'll take more questions as we go on. Okay, then finally, no complex logic or analysis is required for this strategy. Guys, take it easy, okay? You do not have to, it doesn't have to be so hard to make money in trading. No, it doesn't have to be so hard. You can apply simple ideologies. You can apply simple algorithms like what I'm going to teach you today. It doesn't need to make it complex. You don't have to make it complex. So it's straightforward. So these are just the basic information. Now let's look at some of the information about the strategy itself. Okay, the currency pairs that you can use the strategy on, you can use it on all the spectrums of currencies. You can use it on all the currency pairs, but they are most effective on major currency pairs, some major currency pairs, and then on stocks. And thankfully, FXTM now provides you access to trade stocks. So you can use this simple strategy on trading stocks on Amazon, Facebook, and the rest. And then you can trade indices like S&P 500 and so on, gold, silver, and crude oil. So these commodity-based CFDs and the instruments, you can use strategy on them, and also some major pairs. Okay, so these are some of the areas, currency pairs you can apply this strategy. Later on, I'm going to give you some little specifications, all right? But for now, I just want you to have a broad mind about the currency pairs. So you can use on all currency pairs that you like. You can use it for whether you're a day trader or a swing trader, or you can use it for scalping. But the idea is that it's a long-term strategy. Is a strategy that helps you ride a long-term trend. You understand? Those kind of situations where you're regretting that a trend had gone way far, and then you wished you had just stayed on that particular trend for as long as possible. These are the kind of strategies that are very, very good and profitable in those situations. All right. Okay, so let's now chart time frame. You can use on any time frame of your choice. All right. You can use it on M1, M5, H4. I will give you specifications somewhere in the webinar. I'm going to show you what time frames you should focus on and what parameters on what stop losses and all that you can use in those time frames. Okay, let's just go on. All right, now there's something called filter time frame. I'm introducing this for the first time. In fact, if you've been attending my training before, you never had this in you never had this from me. Now, when I did the back test of this strategy, I discovered that if you added another time frame, like a higher time frame as a filter to this strategy, you could make you could stay away from fake trends. When I mean fake trends, are trends that are just fake out. You know, they are not really going to last long. All right, so this is like a filter. Now, what you do is you will take 2 steps above your main chart. Let's say, for example, you want to trade on a H1 chart. All right, H1. Now, above H1, we have H4, we have D1, right? So you're going to take your filter time frame to be on D1, while your main time frame will be on H1. Is that clear? Now, for me, for example, I love to trade on H4 a lot. Now, it means that I would take my main chart will be on H4, but my filter chart will be on weekly. So it's like this progression. Now you have M1, M5, M15, M30, H1, H4, daily, weekly, and monthly. Those are all the time frames you have on MT4. So if you're trading on M1, you want to stay on M1 to trade. Your filter time frame, because the chart after M1 is M5. The chart after M5 is M15. Your filter time frame will be M15. Okay, I hope that is clear enough. Now, I'll tell you more about that. So, just find a particular chart you want to, if a time frame you want to stay on, then count 2 steps, 2 time frames above that. That will be where you will set up your filter chart. I'll tell you what you will do on your filter chart. All right, just know that you are going to have 2 charts now. We're going to work in with 2 charts. First chart is the main chart, and then the second chart will be the filter chart, which is 2 chart step away from our main chart. Is that okay, guys? All right, so let's go on then. And the last information about this is that indicators we're going to use are exponential moving average. Is a type of moving average. I'm going to show you how that is set in a very simple way. And then we're going to use another indicator, just 2 of them. We're going to use another indicator called MACD, MACD. That is moving average convergence divergence. Is that okay? All right. So let's see. Now, in setting up your indicators, now I told you that we're going to use moving average, EMA. Now, setting up your indicators is very simple. The first moving average you would set, I label it EMA1. I'll show you how it's done on the computer right now. Just note down the parameters, all right? Just note them down. I'll show you how it's done practically. We're going to set the first moving average at period 10. If you look at the chart on the on my right on the screen, you will see how the moving average would look like when you bring it out. So you see period. So here you will type 10 in the period. All right. The next is shift. Your shift has to be 0. Your shift has to be 0. The next is MA method. Now, MA method is trying to ask you what kind of moving average do you want to use. And there are different moving averages. You have the linear weighted, we have the exponential, we have the simple. Just choose the exponential. Is that okay? Guys, just stay with me. I'm going to take you through all the practicals. I'm just giving you I'm laying down the foundation so that we can easily move to we'll do some many practicals and other applications. So the first moving average, again, what the parameters we'll use, you write down the parameters. If you want to take the snapshot on your screen, or if you want to write it down, you can do that. The period is going to be 10. Shift should be 0. MA method is exponential, and then you apply it to close. Is that okay? You apply it to close. Then for the first moving average, all right, and then you can put the color as red if you want to put the color. The color doesn't really matter. It's just for visual aid. Okay, so just put the color as red. Okay. Some of you have to um, try and increase your audio so you can hear very well, and then check your internet setting as well. Now, EMA1, that's that for EMA1. Now we need to set another EMA called EMA2. So remember our first EMA1 and then EMA2 now. Now EMA2, we will change the period this time. We will use period 20, shift to 0, MA method exponential, apply to open. Okay, write down the parameters, very simple, and then you can choose a color you like. Okay, so you can use either color blue, color black, anything, just to differentiate EMA1 from EMA2. Is that okay, guys? We are setting two EMAs. EMA1 has period 10, shift to 0, MA method exponential, apply to open. EMA2 now, this one has period 20, shift to 0, MA method exponential, apply to open. Is that okay, guys? Don't worry, I'm going to take you through the MT4 and show you how to set this. All right? All right. So let me take you to the MT4 quickly. Now, let's assume you want to bring out a chart on your MT4, maybe Euro USD chart. Okay, this is your MetaTrader 4. This is how it looks like. I hope you can see my MetaTrader 4. You go to an icon called create a new chart. One thing about MT4, once you just touch an icon, it shows you the name of the icon. Like this icon now, if I'm touching it, it's showing me create a new chart. Okay, I click on this icon, I go down to FX major and I select Euro USD because Euro USD is a major pair. Okay, all these pairs under FX major means that they are major pairs. All right, so I click Euro USD. Now it brings out a chart of Euro USD for me. Okay, I can zoom in if I want. I can change to candlesticks, and all that. I can even change the background. Right click, properties, color scheme, black and white. These are just settings. I like to have my bull candle. These are not so important, guys, but I just like to set the candle color sometimes. All right. So now this is my charts of Euro USD and I'm on H1. All right. To put your moving average on it, to set your moving average on the chart that you have just created, you go to indicators list and then trend, then you click moving average. All right. Remember we said the first one is period 10. Okay, hold on, I'm gonna check. Not seeing the screen. Okay, the MT4 should be very visible. If you can see, hold on, let me see. Okay, the screen is fine. Okay, maybe it's the internet on that side. All right, my screen is some saying my screen is clear. Okay, let's go ahead, guys. So now what I'm saying is we want to set the moving averages now. I've given you the parameters. Okay, two moving averages. So I'm going to set the first one. So you go to moving average, indicator list, trend, moving average. That's the step. It's very simple. Okay, indicator list, trend, and moving average. All right, parameters. Now under the period, we're going to set 10 because we're setting the first one. MA method, we have simple and exponential and smoothed and linear weighted. Remember, we said exponential. Apply to close. All right, then color style is color, so you can choose any color you like. You can choose red or crimson or anything. All right, okay, that's my MA1. Now I'm going to set MA2 now. The same process. So you go to indicator list, trend, moving average, period. You type 20 this time around. We are using the second one as 20. MA method exponential, apply to open. Then the color, you can use black or something or green or any color you like, or blue. It's a black. Let me use black. Okay. Then you click OK. All right. This is very straightforward, guys. Just to put the moving averages and let's roll. All right. So let's go back to our slide. Let's see what's next. So we've set the moving average MA1 and EMA2. Now we need to set one more indicator. That is called the MACD. That is called the MACD. Yeah. Listen, guys, the MA1 is applied to close. The MA2 is applied to open. Let me go back to the slide again. Let me just show you again. That's why I said you should get it down. The EMA1 period 10. Is that clear? All right. Apply to close. All right. The EMA2 period 20. Okay, it's different parameter. I've back tested this parameter, so you don't have to worry about why we're using 10 or 20 or no. I'll show you the result. Then EMA 20 is applied to open. All right. So get those two parameters. Okay, let's go ahead. Now the third thing is the MACD. The MACD. Look at the parameter of the MACD. Actually, we're using the default parameter of the MACD. We're not setting anything in the MACD. These are the parameters of the MACD, the default parameter. The default parameter of the MACD. So just set MACD. Don't change the parameter. Okay. So, but MACD has EMA fast EMA, slow EMA, MACD SMA 9, apply to close. So, like I said, use the default setting of the MACD. All right, so I'm going to go to my chart now and then set the MACD. Just watch. So I go back to my chart where I have my moving average 1, EMA 1, and EMA 2. EMA 1 is red, EMA 2 is black. All right, EMA 1 is my 10, EMA 2 is my 20. Now, MACD, same way you attached moving average. You go to indicator list. Now, you don't go to trend, you go to oscillators. MACD is an oscillator. Okay, guys, MACD it brings a different whole stuff into this combination. You'll see soon. Okay, so we have MACD. Now in the parameter of the MACD, don't change anything. You see, I'm not changing any parameter. I just brought out my MACD and then I'm not changing anything there. Everything is the same. Fast EMA is at 12, slow EMA is at 26. MACD SMA is at 9. This is the parameter. This is the default setting of the MACD. So when you're done, you click OK, and then it brings out the MACD. So MACD is at the bottom. See MACD here at the bottom of my chart. See moving average 10, the red, the first EMA 1. Moving average 20, that is EMA 2. Okay, all right. So let's see. Having set these parameters, how do we use it to analyze the market, and how do we use it to trade? Okay, so let's go back to what we have here. All right, now the chart setup. So let's see. On your main chart, remember when I said we have two types of charts? We have the main chart and the filter chart. And I said the main chart is the chart you want to use to trade, your desired chart. You can either use M1, M5, 15, M30, H1, H4, and the rest. Okay, I'll show you where the moving the time frame is written on the MT4 again. Now let's start with the main chart. On our main chart, we're going to have, this is the chart of the main, this is the main trading chart. Okay, we're going to attach EMA 1, EMA 2, and the MACD. These three will go on the main chart. All right, so you're going to have something like this. EMA 1 is a red, that is EMA 10. EMA 2 is the blue, and MACD is the one under. Let me go to the MT4 and just change that black to blue. Okay, so we have EMA 1. Hold on, I'm gonna get a blue color now. Okay, so EMA 1 is the red, EMA 2 is the blue, and then the MACD is here. Okay, this is Euro USD H1. All right, this is where we have the time frame M1, M5, M15, M30, H1, H4, D1, W, MN. So you can use any time frame you like. All right, let's say I'm on M1. H1. This is my main chart. All right, now I need to set my filter chart. After H1, I have H4. After H4, I have D1. So remember, your filter chart is 2 steps above your main chart. So my filter chart is going to be on D1. So I'm going to bring out another chart of Euro USD and then D1. All right. So I can do that by just going to create a new chart and then moving out Euro USD. So D1 this time around. Okay, I can drop all. All right. So I have my D1 chart. Look at it written on top of it in the left hand corner. All right. So and okay. So I have the D1 chart, and then you have the H1 H1 chart. Okay, so let's go back. So we have our main chart already set. We said we should have the moving averages on our main chart, and then the MACD. Then on the filter chart, the parameter for the MACD is the default parameter. Okay, so we are not setting anything on the MACD. Just bring the MACD out and drop. All right, good. So let's go ahead, guys. Now, we have the filter chart. All right. Hope you know the difference between the main chart and the filter chart, guys. Good. The main chart is the chart you want to use to trade. The filter chart is 2 steps above your main chart. I'll tell you the function of the filter chart soon. Just hold on. Now, on the filter chart, this is what we're going to do. The filter chart helps filter the trend. I told you, the filter chart is like a bias. It gives us a certain bias of the market. It tells us the bigger picture of the market. If the market is an uptrend on the filter chart, then we're going to go on the main chart to only take trades that are in the direction of the filter chart. All right, don't worry, I'll do so many examples on that. Now, set at 2 time frames above your main chart. Yeah, I told you that. Now attach only EMA1 and EMA2. So on the filter chart, we don't need MACD because we don't want MACD's inputs on the main chart. Main chart is just to identify trend, and we're good with just the EMA1 and EMA2. So on the filter chart, on the filter chart, let me take that again. On the filter chart, we only want to identify the trend, the bias of the market. That's what we want to identify on the filter chart. So we only need the moving average 1 and moving average 2. All right. Now, look at my chart here. If my moving average 1, EMA1, is the red line, EMA2 is the blue line. Now, if the EMA1 is above EMA2, just like we have it here now, if the EMA1 is above EMA2, like we have here now, it's a buy biased. It means on the filter chart, the market is more prone to go in an upward direction than in a downward direction. So we should limit our trades on the main chart to the bias of the filter chart. Hope that is clear. So the filter chart helps us to stay away from other type of trades, other type of execution aside that of the filter chart. So the market is in a buy biased on the filter chart if the EMA1 is above the EMA2, like we have here. So if the red line, which is the EMA1, that is the moving average 10, is above the blue line, then we have a buy bias, and then the reverse is the sell bias. So if you have the EMA2, EMA1 below the EMA2, then that is a sell bias. Yes, exactly. The filter chart dictates the direction you are to take, the kind of trade signals you have to take. All right. So you stay on the bias. You stay on either a buy bias or a sell bias. Is that okay, guys? So if the filter chart is saying, look, the market is a buy bias, then you will go to your main chart 2 steps downwards, and if you see a trade that is a buy signal, you will take it. If you see a trade that is a sell signal, you do not take it. All right. That's what the filter chart is supposed to do for you. Yeah, it work on the filter chart and the main chart can be any time frame. All right, guys, I'm hold on with the question. Let me just fire on with this stuff. Okay, so let's look at on our main chart now. I mean, what is the buy condition? How do we get a buy signal? What's the condition for buy? Just watch the condition for buy. Number 1, the filter chart must be buy biased. So number 1 is that on our filter chart, that is the bigger chart, the market must be showing a buy bias. That means the EMA1 must be above the EMA2. That is buy biased. Okay, that's number 1 on the filter chart. First condition. Now the second condition is that the main chart now must show EMA1 just crossing over EMA2 from below. So EMA1 must just look at where I circled here. EMA1, which is the red line kind of, was just crossing. I mean, it's around that region where it crossed. So we will not want to enter a situation where it has crossed and it has gone up long in that trend. All right. Okay, someone says, please go back to the first condition. All right, let me just take the condition again. Hold on, guys. Just hold on. Let's take the condition 1 for buy signal. Let's go back. Now, let's take the condition again. The first condition for buy is that on the, we have 2 charts. Now, filter is the bigger chart. Main chart is the smaller chart. The main chart is the one you want to take your trade on. Now, on the filter chart, where you have the moving average 1, EMA1 and EMA2, you must ensure that EMA1 is the line of the EMA1 is above the line of the EMA2. Look at it now. Look at it here. The red line here is obviously above the blue line. So when you have that situation, it's called buy biased. When EMA1 is above the EMA2, it's called buy biased. All right? Hope that is gotten. Now, let's go to condition 2. So condition 2 is that you now go down to your main chart. On your main chart, EMA1 on your main chart now should be crossing above EMA2, and that should just be occurring. It should be around the point where the cross is occurring. Okay, it should be around around the point where that crossover is occurring. So I showed you an example. Look at an example here. You see that point I circled. At that point, the EMA1 was just crossing above EMA2. That is what I mean by just crossing. Around that point, it has crossed, but it hasn't gone. It has just crossed. It hasn't gone so far into that particular trend. If it has gone far into that particular trend, it's better you just stay away from that buy trade. All right. It's best you are getting into the trend as early as possible, and then you ride on with the trend. Okay, that's the best time. All right, so let's go ahead. Now we have another condition, the third condition for buy, which I think it's also very important. On the main chart, now you are still on the main chart. On the main chart, the MACD bars. Now, if you look at the MACD, let me give you a little information about the MACD. You see, the MACD has some tiny vertical lines. It's called MACD bars. It's called MACD bars, and these bars, they are either above zero. Let me show you on the chart itself, so you can see it clearly on the chart. Now, this is the MACD bar. This is the MACD bar. I just enlarged it. Okay, this is the MACD bars. The white, the black vertical lines, they're called MACD bars or histograms. MACD histogram, MACD bar. Now, it's either the MACD histograms are going up or down, are above or below the zero line. See zero here, 0.00. All right. So if you look at 0.00 and then you put an imaginary line up through the MACD, you see that the MACD bar is pointing down at this point, and then it's pointing up at this point. So the MACD bar is either pointing up or pointing down. That's what I'm trying to say. If the MACD bar is pointing up, it's trying to confirm a buy signal. If the MACD bar is pointing down, it's trying to confirm a sell signal. Is that okay, guys? So that's what the MACD does. I'll put everything together now. Let's just build it up gradually. So we said the third condition is that on the main chart, the MACD bars should be above zero line. So 3 conditions again. Don't forget the first condition. Let me take you through the first condition. The first condition, the filter chart must be buy biased. You understand what that means already? The second condition is on the main chart. Second and third condition is on the main chart. Second condition on the main chart, the EMA1 should just cross over EMA2. And then the third condition, also on the main chart, is that the MACD bars should be above zero line. Whether that is just starting or it has started for long, doesn't matter. The MACD bar should be above zero line. So 3 conditions, guys. The first one is on the filter chart. The second condition and the third condition are on the main chart where you want to take your trade. Okay. The first condition on the filter chart says that the EMA1 should be above EMA2 for buy biased. And then on your main chart, the second condition says the EMA1 should just be crossing EMA2 upwards. And then MACD is that MACD should be above zero line. Very straightforward, guys. So let's go ahead. Now, and then we have the start of the sell. The sell condition, the filter chart must be sell biased. That means on the filter chart, the EMA1 is below EMA2. And then the second condition is that on the main chart itself, the EMA1 is just crossing below EMA2. And then the third condition is that the MACD bars should be pointing below zero line. So on the main chart, the MACD bars should be below zero line. Just the reverse of the buy bias. All right, guys. So now exit condition. Now you exit the trade when the sell entry condition 1 or 2 has changed. Remember the condition 1 on your filter chart, it should be buy bias. If that changes, then you have to exit the trade. The condition 2 is that on your main chart, the moving average 1 should be above moving average 2 or below it. So if that changes, then you have to exit the condition. You have to exit the trade. Now, let's talk about stop loss. Now, stop loss is dependent on the time frame that you use. Okay. Now, if you don't understand what stop loss is just a way to stop your trade if it's going in your other direction. Okay. Well, after placing the trade, you want to know if it's going in a different direction. So if it's going in a different direction, then you have to set a stop loss. So now, the stop loss if you're using your main chart is M1, the stop loss should be 5 pips. If your main chart is M5, your stop loss should be 10 pips, and so on, like that. Okay, so you can just make a note of that, or you can take a snapshot of that. Okay, so if your main chart that you're trading with, if you're trading on M1, you can use stop loss of 5 pips. Now these are the minimum stop losses. All right, guys, these are the minimum. It means that if I'm trading okay, guys, it says, I understand the main chart. Please explain the filter chart more. All right, I'm going to explain that with an example quickly. All right, guys, just stay with me. I want to carry you along, first of all, on the whole setup, and then I'll go practical. Is that okay? All right, guys. So get down the stop loss recommendation of your main chart. These are the minimum. It means if you are using M1 chart, your minimum stop loss should be 5 pips. You can't use more than 5 pips. I mean, less than 5 pips. Sorry. Your minimum stop loss is 5 pips on M1. If you are using your main chart as maybe H4, your minimum stop loss should be 50 pips. That means you can use 60 pips, you can use 70 pips, you can use 100 pips. All right. So let's go ahead, guys. Now make a note of that. Okay, that's very simple, and then you can always have that again. Now take profit. Now take profit is like a target. Now when you enter a buy trade, you want to set a target. You're thinking, okay, where am I going to exit and buy? Where am I going to exit my trade and profit? That's what take profit is about. So there are two ways. I have observed that this would work very well. All right. The first one is that you don't use take profit at all. All right, guys. Yes, you don't use take profit at all. Just place your trade without take profit. It is good when you are trading stocks. It is good when you are trading some commodities. It is good when you are trading indexes. Okay. It's also good in some currency pairs. All right. You don't put take profit. You only set your stop loss, and then you watch out for the exit condition. So the first approach of take profit is that you don't set any take profit at all. You set your stop loss, but let the take profit side be open. Is that okay, guys? And then you also watch out. Don't just set stop loss and go. You have to watch if the condition 1 or condition 2 changes, then you exit the trade. Is that okay, guys? Condition 1, you remember on the filter chart, it must be buy bias or sell bias. If that changes, exit that trade immediately. Condition 2 is on the main chart, moving average crossing over each other. If that changes also, like you're in a buy trade where moving average 1 is above moving average 2, and it's going on like that, and then at a point on the main chart now, the moving average 1 now crosses below moving average 2, then that's an exit, a change of condition, and you can close that trade. Okay, even though you had a stop loss. So stop loss is just a hard stop. All right. Now that's for the first approach to take profit. Second approach is that you use a risk reward ratio to determine your take profit. What do I mean by that? Now, let's say for example, I want to use risk reward ratio 1:1. This is the ratio of my stop loss to my take profit. Now, if I'm entering and then I set a stop loss of 50 pips and I'm using ratio 1:1, I desire to use ratio 1:1, then it means my take profit will be also 50 pips. Is that okay, guys? That's meaning ratio 1:1. You can decide to use any risk reward ratio you like. Okay, you can decide to use risk reward ratio, risk reward 1:1, or risk reward 1:2, or 1:3, or 1:4. I tested all of these 4, and I'll show you the statistics for them at the end of the slide. All right. Now, if you use risk reward ratio, it means you have to set stop loss and then you have to set take profit. Now, it is good for those who know that I'm just going to be very busy. I can't watch this trade. Let me just place it and go. Okay, then you have to use risk reward. You can use 1:1, 1:2, 1:3, or 1:4. 1:1 means whatever your stop loss is, the same, or your take profit to be the same. If your stop loss is 50 pips away from your entry, your take profit has to be 50 pips away from your entry in the other side. If you're using risk reward 1 to 2, if your stop loss is 50 pips away from your entry, your take profit has to be 100 pips away from your entry on the other side. Is that okay, guys? Very simple, straightforward. If you're using risk reward 1 to 4, your stop loss has to be 50 pips. If it's 50 pips H4, and then 4 times of that is 200 on the other side. All right. So someone said, UFO said, what are the chances of the condition changing leading to closure of the trade percentage wise? Okay, I'm going to give you that success statistics later. Okay, before we get to that, now before I get to some statistics, let's go to the chart. Now let's do some practice. All right. So I have a couple of trades, a couple of charts I already I was going through, and then let's just go over them one by one. Now this is euro card daily chart. You can see that on the daily chart, the moving average EMA1, that is the red, has just crossed above the black, the 20. Okay, now if this is my main chart, I want to take this trade, I need to check all the 3 conditions. Like, okay, condition 1 says on a filter chart here will be monthly, because this is a daily chart. So 2 charts above daily chart is monthly. So I'll just go to a monthly chart. You can bring a separate chart entirely if you want to do that, but just to save us all that, I'll just go to a monthly chart. I'll go and check. Look at now, guys. On the monthly chart, what do you see? A buy biased. What do I mean by buy biased? The moving average, EMA1 is above EMA2. Okay, so after Austin said weekly, no, 2 charts above daily. We are trading on a daily. Look at the daily. 2 charts above daily. The chart above daily is weekly. The chart above weekly is monthly. All right. So we go on monthly. Now this is a buy biased on the filter chart, but we're taking our trade on a D1. So we go back to D1. You see, now condition one was met, which is that the EMA1 should be above EMA2. That's the buy biased. Fine. Condition 2 would be on the main chart itself, daily chart now. Condition 2, the EMA1 is just crossing EMA2. Condition 2 is also met. You can see. So condition 1 is met by being a buy bias. Look at this again. On the monthly chart, the EMA1 is above EMA2. The red line is the EMA1. The black chart is the black line is the EMA2, is above EMA2. This is a buy bias. Condition 1 checked for buy. Now I go to my main chart. I look at the second condition. Condition 2 says the EMA1 should just be crossing above EMA2, and that is occurring right now. All right. So condition 2 is also met for buy. Then condition 3 is the MACD. MACD must be above 0. Is that okay, guys? Now look at the MACD here. MACD is pointing down. You see? Excuse me. MACD is pointing down. So MACD is pointing below 0, which means MACD condition, the third condition, is not met yet. So what we're going to do is to wait for that third condition, which is the MACD, to move above 0. So that might take us some more number of time. We can't tell. So this chart has not met the 3 condition. Is that okay? Now let's go to the next. Let's go to, now see, USD JPY daily chart. On the daily chart, the EMA1 has just crossed EMA2, although some distance. Now look at the distance between the point where it crossed and then the mouth of the moving average. All right, that's what I mean by just crossing it. Now let's go to the filter chart of this. The filter chart is down, so we can't condition, we can't place a trade on this because the filter chart is completely different from the main chart. Okay, so we'll move away from that. Now let's go to the crude. Now we have crude on H4. Crude on H4 is going up currently on H4. If H4 is going to be our filter chart, that means it's a buy bias. Then the main chart would have been M30. All right, you see, it's a buy. Now let's take it one by one. Now back to H4 on the crude chart. Now on crude chart, H4 it is a buy biased on it. That's the filter chart. Now main chart will be 30 minutes. So if I was to trade on a 30-minute chart, I'll first of all go to H4 to check the filter. So H4 showing me buy biased. Can you see? Now 30-minute chart is my main chart. It's also showing me a buy. EMA1 is above EMA2. This is a good entry. And now look at the MACD. Look at the MACD2 is up. So this is the three conditions are met here for a buy signal. All right. So that's what I'm talking about on the buy signal. So let's look at the next one, USD CHF daily chart. USD CHF daily chart has been going down. Now this could be serve as your filter chart. That's if you want to trade on H1, for example. All right. So on my if this is my filter chart now, daily chart, downtrend, but sell biased, then I'll go to my H1 now. Now H1 is showing me that EMA1, which is the red, is just crossing down EMA2. All right. Condition 2 met. Condition 1 is on daily chart, downtrend. Condition 2 on the H1 chart also met. All right. Then MACD, we're going to wait for MACD. MACD is still above zero. We're going to wait for MACD to go below the zero line, and then that will be our entry into the USD CHF chart. Is that okay, guys? So now let me show you the statistics of this stuff. Now this is very important, guys. Now when I did the back test of this strategy, I discovered that 31% of trends are long term, producing more than 4 times the return based on the risk provided here. So that means 31% of the time the market goes 4 times of the risk. 31%, that's 3 out of 10 trends that you can see. So it's not all the trends that will go that long, just 3 out of 10 trades that will go more than 4 times of the risk taken. Now for the risk reward ratios, 67% success rate. Now if you're using 1-to-1 ratio, you would have 67% success rate based on the back test. Okay, I got that from the back test. And then for 1-to-2 risk reward ratio, I got 50% success rate. That means 5 out of 10 trades that went in your direction, in your take profit, 5 out of 10 we hit take profit. 5 out of 10 trade you take, we hit take profit. That's what that means, and so on. And 1:3, 35%. Now the highest number of pips is made when there's no take profit set. I told you that if you're not setting take profit, you would enjoy those unusually long trend, which I am actually trying to encourage you to consider, because that is the sole advantage of the riding the trend strategy. Now the practice shows that 6 times more pips are generated when there is no take profit. So when there is no take profit, it could be much more than 6 times or of the risk taken. Okay, so let me take some questions quickly. Let me see from, okay, I have from Babatunde. Will the technique still be able to, will this technique still be able to work around high impact news releases? Yep. high impact, low impact. In fact, when it's high impact, it ought to drive it in a certain direction, in a very high, with a high momentum. So that could either be in your direction or against you. All right. Now, regarding the news, I tell technical traders that you have to just hit your stop loss. Once you have your stop loss, you don't have to bother so much about high impact or low impact news, because you've already factored in your stop loss. All right. So stop loss is the solution to high impact, or it could be, if it's having high impact in your direction, then that's good for you. All right. But if it's high impact against you, your stop loss is there to protect you. Okay. I have, please kindly show the MACD zero line. All right. From Samuel, let's check the MACD zero line again. Now, because I'm using a color, now if you look at this MACD very well, you see on the y-axis, you're gonna see 0.00. Can you see that? That is zero line. Now, if I put an kind of a line there, you will see that it demarcates the MACD from when it's up, the MACD bars from when it's up or when it's down. That's what I mean. So the zero line is just 0.0 digits written on the vertical axis on the right here. So just watch that, and then you know whether the MACD is going up or the MACD is going down. So don't forget those three conditions. That's the most important thing. On the filter chart, it should be buy biased. If for a buy, when you come to the main chart, the EME1 should just be crossing above EME2, and then MACD should be above zero line. That's very simple and straightforward, guys. Samuel says frequently shows the MACD. Okay, I've shown that. Does this strategy work on the London strategy? No, these are, see, don't mix up strategies, guys. Don't mix them up. Strategies have different purpose. This purpose of riding the trend strategy is to ride unusually long-term trends. All right, London breakout strategy or any other breakout strategy system is swing based. Okay, it's supposed to capture some short directional move for you, and then you're good. All right, so don't mix them up. They have, you can either use any of them or use them, but don't use them together, like to do same analysis, to analyze a particular trade. You're going to be having a lot of mistake, because the markets doesn't do all that same movement every time. So, do you have a MetaTrader expert advisor which executes the strategy automatically? Can you share? Period. Honestly, I don't trade with an expert advisor. What I do with expert advisors, to be very honest with you, is to do back test, automated back test. So what I do, I try to code the system, my algorithm. I try to code it into metacode language, and then I run it through historical data. All right, I can plug in as much date as maybe 2013 or like 5 years, depending on the time frame, and I plug it and I run it. Now, if it gives me a positive equity curve at the end of the back tested period, I will now imagine that, look, if a machine could produce such positive curve for me, then if I trade it manually, I should do more, because that is the truth. When you trade manually, you can avoid some trades, and then you'll be conscious of not taking so many trades. But a robot is just automated, and then sometimes it just takes trade. And there's still risk involved in robots. It's not just a set and forget thing. Internet could go off on your VPS or your computer or something. So I just use it for back test. I don't use it to take this strategy at all. I trade this strategy manually. Can MACD help when to take profits? No. Please don't use MACD for profit, all right? I get this question every time. See, the only function of MACD in this strategy is during entry. When we are entering, we want to know, is the MACD in a downward direction? Is it below zero or is it above zero? If MACD is below zero, then I'm taking a sell. I haven't seen all the first two conditions met. After that, I don't need MACD again in that journey. In the journey of that trend, I don't need MACD again. That's not what the MACD doesn't do that for us. MACD is not a trend-based indicator. I don't use it for trend. I just use it to identify and to filter entries, and then that's all I use it for. Okay. All right. So guys, let me take some more question before time run. Can we get the slide later? Network issues. Of course, we're going to have a recorded version of the webinar. All right. So you'd get online later on and check where it's recorded. And I'm hopefully going to be having the webinar. This is the first webinar on this series, and I'm going to have another. So just stay tuned. If you go online, you're going to see where it is recorded, and then you can the archive rather, and then you can download and watch it. If you implement, okay, Cornelius says, if you implement a trailing stop, would you use the same stop loss as per the setting for the different charts? Yes, but now there's something about stop loss. If you're not an advanced trader, please stay away from trailing stop. Yeah, if you're not an advanced trader, stay away from trailing stop because the market does not go linearly. I and a lot of traders make that same mistake. You know, if you trail the market in a linear manner, the market doesn't go. The market is zigzag. You must be able to see those points where you put stop loss. So for you to know the best trailing stop to use, you would have to do a back test on that and see, okay, what can I use 10 pips, 20 pips, and all that. So, but to be on the safe side as a manual trader, just set your stop loss, set your entry point, set your stop loss, and then if you have to take profit, put it. Especially for this strategy, I didn't back test it with trailing stop. All right, probably if you can do a back test on that, but don't do it without. Don't use it to trade. Don't trail this strategy without having done a back test using a trailing stop. All right. How does support and resistance affect this strategy? Support and resistance doesn't have anything to do with this strategy. This strategy is a trend-based strategy. It's a strategy that, when I was showing my student the USD CHF daily chart. Let me see if I have the chart here. Okay, we're on USD CHF. Look at what's been happening on USD CHF for the past, just this year alone. Just watch. I posted it on some of my social media handle. Now, in January this year, using the moving average 10 and 20, you see, I could just have had just 3 trades this year alone, just 3 trades, and then I would have made this amount of pips. Just watch. Now, the first trade took off in January when the moving average 10 crossed below moving average 20, and the MACD confirmed it. I'm on daily chart, so I have to go to monthly to go and do my filter. Now, from here down, I would leave the trade to run until I get to the exit point. Exit point is when the moving average 10 EMA1 crosses above the 2 now. Remember, so entry is when the EMA 10 crosses below, and then you get in on a sell, and then you write down up to this point, and sometimes around in March, okay? And that's about, let me count how many pips that is. That's about 480 pips. That's one trade from January this year to March. Then at that March, it crossed over again, and then MACD had confirmed it. I would have checked up in my higher charts to see if confirms as well, and then I'll write on, and then from here I get to the exit here, and that's about 500 and something. So overall, and then it's going down now. It just had three major trends. USD has just had three major trends this year: the downtrend from January to March, and the uptrend from March to sometimes in May, and then from May is going down now. And the first trend would have produced for you 480 pips. The second trend would have produced for you 500 and something pips. That's close to about 900 pips, above 900 pips, and you just had just two trades. So it's not the quantity of trades you take, guys. It's the quality of trade. And so you have to also know that. Can I apply this on my phone? Of course, you can apply it on your phone. That is Emmanuel. Okay, does this strategy work across all instruments? Elu Equimeka. It works on major pairs. All right, it works on stocks very well on stocks. Okay, you can check that on stocks, and then it also works on crude. It works on gold. I listed that earlier, and then you can go over this webinar again and see. But major pairs, all the major pairs, you can use them on the major pairs, and then you'll be fine. When to exit when running the trend without take profit? You exit when the moving average crosses over again on the other side. Like that means if the cross changes now. So let's say you took a buy when the crossed up at this point. Look at my chart. You took a buy. you would leave the trade to run, no take profit, and then you exit when the cross occurs here. GPJPY also does this kind of thing so well. GPJPY on H4 and daily charts. GPJPY also does this kind of fantastic movement. Those are the kind of pairs that you should really focus on if you want to ride long and enjoy that maximum profit. More light on the filter chart, please, Anthony. Anthony, basically, filter chart is the two-step chart above the chart you want to trade with. It helps you to stay on not on a side of the market. So if you go, let's say now you want to trade on H4, your filter chart will be, after H4 is daily chart. Okay, after daily chart is weekly. Your filter chart will be weekly. You are trading on H4, but your filter chart is weekly. All right. So that's filter chart, and then you go check if the filter chart meets the condition for your entry. The exit is on the main chart or filter chart. H0. The exit could be on, if the filter chart has changed, you can exit. But the most important thing is that the main chart exit. Main chart, if the condition changes on main chart, you get out of the trade. Okay. Kunle said, where's the question from Kunle again? All right, Kunle is there. Is a what period can it work well during range period and to enter and exit during range period? Well, that is why you have all the filters, Kunle. If you get into a range period, the MACD would spot that quickly for you, or the filter chart. That's the essence of the filter chart. Those two are to help you stay away from conditions that are going to not going to be so trendy, But most important thing is the filter chart. I like to trade in direction of the filter chart. All right. So now, like I told you, you have you have about 31% of your trades go in a very long term, depending on the currency pair. All right. Some of them you could, like, look at the three trends on USD CHF this year alone on the daily chart has been long. The three of them. The first one, the two of them rather. The first one, the downtrend, and the second one, the uptrend. The two major movements had been very long in that direction. So this is what I'm talking about. So sometimes it's like that. Sometimes you have 31% of the movement. Okay, so we have. Let me take two more questions and then I can wrap up this. Kyle D says, does this strategy work on cryptocurrency like BTC, Ethereum? Of course, it works on cryptocurrency as well. Okay. Musa Ali says, how can I use strategy to scalp? Musa Ali, if you want to scalp, you can use strategy on M1. Okay, M1 chart. Okay, that will help you. M1, M5. That will help you in scalping, but get the conditions very correctly, and that's most important. Okay, so guys, how do I set my stop loss in this strategy? Okay, I've explained that. Kingsley said how to set my stop loss. Kingsley, let me show you an example of a trade. Let's say, okay, let me see. Okay, let's use this one as an example. NZDJPY. Let's say I want to place a trade on NZDJPY, and now I click new order, right? And I set my volume and then my stop loss. Now check the current price. The current price there says 77.72720. It's moving very fast. So if I'm going to buy, I'm using daily chart. In daily chart, if you check all the stop loss recommendation, 100 pips is fine. Now I will deduct 100 pips from this price. So if you deduct 100 pips from this price, you're going to have 76.71 thereabout. So you type 76.710, something like this, and then you click buy. If you don't want to have a take profit, and then you click buy, and then because I'm using ECN, I have to place the trade first. When I place the trade, and then I can set the stop loss to 76. Okay, So that's it, guys. Okay, any other question? Um, okay, Obed says, I missed the start of the webinar. Would you please summarize the at the end? Okay, I think let me just go in just 1 minute quickly. Now, basically, what I've said is that we have two charts. We have the main chart and then the filter chart. The main chart is the chart you want to place your trade on. The filter chart is 2 steps above your main chart. Is that okay? So you on your filter chart, like so now my main chart is H4. My filter chart will be weekly. So on weekly chart, I will go and check the trend of the market. If the moving average 1 is above moving average 2, is a buy bias. It means that on my main chart now, I would only look for buy trades. I will not look for sell trade. If I see a sell trade, I will neglect it. I will just focus on the buy trade. And on my main chart, to get a buy signal, you will have to enter when the EMA1 is just crossing above EMA2. And then MACD is above zero line as well. And then the sell is just to revert it. That means on the main chart of a sell, it should be a sell biased, and on your filter chart, sorry, it should be sell biased, and then your main chart, the moving average 1 should just be crossing the moving average 2, and then MACD is below zero line. Okay, so I think I've taken generally a lot of question. If I trade, yes sir, if I trade, okay, Perio says if I trade off 15 minutes and the moving average are correctly positioned on above another one, but on H1 the moving average are not correctly positioned, would you take the trade? No, the conditions are not met. The 3 conditions must be met. On the higher time frame, that's the future chart, the condition must be met. On the main chart, the conditions must be met. If they are not met, just stay away from that. Okay. All right, thank you so much, guys. Without I think I've taken all the questions. So we're going to have this webinar, like I said, is going to be uploaded on our archive, and then you can just go over it again. And if you have questions, you can send your questions to us, and through our customer support charts and all that, and then we can get to see if we can answer them. And of course, if you also want to review the webinars, you can review it over and over and over again. So thank you so much, guys, for showing up for today's webinar. It's been very fun being with you. I know it's a simple strategy. All you just need to do is you practice and practice and practice, and then I know you'll be very good. All right, so take care, trade wisely. All right, see you again. And most importantly, for those of you who have attended a basic training program, for those of you who have not attended the basic training program, don't forget what I said. Try and watch some of our webinars online that are on MT4, how to use MT4, and make sure you get how to use the MetaTrader to place a trade, and then you'll be good. All right. So take care, everyone. All right.